Welcome everyone, this is Ms. Schlarman, and today we're going to talk about how to make a clay whistle. Up here I have different examples and different designs. I'll test them out for you. That one has a lower because the cavity is larger. That one has a nice sound with it depending on the size of the open area inside. This one here has a much higher. And then of course also if you put holes, it creates that flute technique and it sounds like this. Now the diagram here is if I were to cut this right down the middle and look through the side. The air travels through the area in the cavity and then out. This 45-degree angle is creating that right there at the neck to create that whistle sound. Over here we also have a little sheet to kind of help you guide on our steps to creating our whistles. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to get your clay and you want to make it into a sphere. Once you have it into a sphere, you're going to take the knife and you're going to slice right down the middle. Okay? At this point you have two halves. Okay? Then the next step is we need two pinch pots. One pinch pot has a nib on it and one pinch pot is just pinched. So here I'm going to place it in my hand. I like to use my knuckle because I have fingernails, and I'm going to start to turn it. And I start that area and I'm kind of pushing it down. Then once it has the hole in it, I'm going to take kind of like lobster claws, like your hands are lobsters, and I'm pushing from the bottom and to the up. You don't want to just squeeze the sides because then the sides just get thin and you'll have a lot of mass down here. So you want to push it around and think of it like a potter's wheel. You know how you see them throw on the wheel, it's going in a circle? The circle is trying to help you make sure that it's evenly dispersed throughout the cup. So there is your first pinch pot. All it is like looks like a little tiny bowl. Next step, I'm going to make the same thing. I'm going to start with my pinch pot. The only thing different is that this side of my whistle needs to have a nib, the area where you're going to create the whistle part. So what I'm doing is I'm kind of looking like an ice cream cone. I'm using my hand to pinch out just like a little nib, just a little section that sticks out from it. Now you don't want it too skinny because you have to be able to fit a popsicle stick through the center of it. That's what's going to create the opening. Now once I have it here, I'm going to come back and I'm going to start working on that pinch pot using those lobster claw technique. I'm going to open it up, creating a nice simple bowl. Now I'm going to compare it. Are they about the same size? They're close, but it looks like I need to make this one slightly larger. So I'm going to take this around and make it slightly larger. Then I'm going to come in and just smooth out a couple of my nail marks that are in there. I'm going to look at it. I'm going to say, okay, that's pretty smooth. So I look over at my thing. I've got my step. Right now it looks like here's my ice cream cone. Here's my ice cream part. Then if I take it apart, they're still a little uneven. So you're going to use your knife and I'm just going to shimmy off a flat edge. Okay? So I'm just going to shimmy it off, just taking off a little bit so that it's flat and it's going to match up with my other side. This whole process is you want to have good craftsmanship, so take your time and make sure that they match up nice and neat. So once they match up like that, we are going to use the score and slip technique. Scoring is when you put the marks into it. And you want to do that to both sides. It kind of works like a Velcro technique where the areas have these gouges. Then you use the slip, and all slip is watered down water, and that goes into those cracks, and that's going to make this area seal together and then dry slower. Once I have those, I'm going to attach it. At this point, I want to trap that air inside. As you know, when you fire clay, you can't have air pockets. If you have air pockets, they will blow up in the kiln because the clay shrinks and the air does not. Now, in this case, we're going to use the air to our advantage because once it's sealed in there and you don't have any gaps or any holes, that air is going to work as a support as we're blending and mixing this clay. Now, obviously, if I smushed it, it's going to collapse and it's going to pop. But right now, that air in there is giving it support to where I could start pushing a little bit harder on that seam and making that seam go really nice and evenly to where you don't see the seam anymore. So the inside of this whistle is starting to look like this design. The whole point is to create that cavity, and the larger your cavity, the deeper your tone will be, and then the smaller your cavity, the higher your tone will be. Okay. Once I have that there, you can spend a lot of time making this like really smooth. The next step that it says over here on the process sheet is to fix the bottom, the shape of it. Notice how the shape is flat on the bottom and it kind of curves up on the top. So what I want to do is I don't want to squish the whole thing, but I'm just going to shape it into that form. And it's very important to shape it before you put a hole in it. Once I put a hole back into here, the air will escape and I will not have that support structure on the inside to keep that form. Okay, the next step, I have a popsicle and I have a modified popsicle. The modified is just trimmed down to a 45-degree angle to help with the cutting in the second stage. So the first one is to create that shape onto the table flat. I am going to take my plain popsicle stick. I am going to insert it into the opening, the mouth, and create my opening. And I want it to be horizontal with the table. Now, be careful not to push all the way through to the back side. Once you have it inserted, you're going to hold it up. Notice how I support it with my hand here. I'm going to take my modified popsicle stick and then right along in the neck of the popsicle, I am going to create a square. Okay, I just kind of first got the details there. Next, I'm going to take that square out. So I'm going to push down. Notice I'm holding this other popsicle because my popsicle here is in alignment with it and it's hitting it, and I don't want to destroy the clay. So it's kind of a delicate handle when you're holding this and getting out this little chunk. Sometimes it pops out really easy. Sometimes you kind of got to help it out. There we go. So I have my square. I'm just going to clean it up. This clay is fairly wet, and the wetter the clay is, a little bit harder to work with. But of course, as you know, if you're working with dry clay, it gets all those cracks in there. All right, now I have my square. Next, I need to make that 45-degree angle. So it's going to go down towards the opening of the mouth. So notice how this is, the popsicle stick is going down, kind of at that same angle right there at the neck. So here's my neck pointing out. I'm going to make my 45-degree angle and push it up. There it is. Now, let's see how well it worked. Okay, sometimes you can pull it out and it works right away. Other times we have to work with it. This clay is fairly wet, so we might have to do a couple techniques. Number one is, when you push this clay in, sometimes it pushes that clay and it kind of creates a ledge right here and it balls up. So let's look at that. And if you look down in here, there is. So what I want to do is just very carefully, not to mix up that 45, I want to push that popsicle stick in and just create where that extra clay, I'm just going to push it down to the side. That's what I'm doing. Okay, at this point, I'm going to try to see if this whistle works. Cross your fingers. Oh, thank you. It worked on the first time. That is not very normal. So that is fantastic. So once you notice, this has a larger cavity, so it has that deeper tone. What if I change the shape of this whistle, it will no longer work. So what you need to do is always keep in mind that once your whistle works, don't change the shape. All right, we are ready to get started on the creative part. This one is a simple but yet cool design. It's just a splatter of glaze. This one, the structure, the blow whistle is the neck, and then the opening is the back, and then it has the design of the face. This one is a cheeseburger, and it's got the neck kind of sticks out. Maybe if they made that a pickle, or maybe a turtle would be kind of neat. Here we have a penguin. The blow mechanism is at the top and it's sitting up this way. The cat is also using the blow mechanism at the top of the design. Here is a fish. The fish is using the back of it as the design. This one is a octopus sitting on the top of a whistle. So here's the back bottom, there's the blowhole. So when you look at it, think, what could this be? I'm going to go ahead, you're going to use extra clay and attach any designs that you come up with. Maybe I'll go over here, turn it this way, think about maybe a porcupine. I don't know. I think that might be kind of a neat one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a whole bunch of little porks that have come off of it. Now, when you are working with clay, if I just kind of stick this clay right there and let it dry, it's going to separate. As it shrinks, they're going to pull away from each other, and this will just go bloop, and this will go bloop and fall right off. So in order to keep it secure, when you attach anything, you need to score and slip. Slip is when you take water and clay and you add the water to the clay, and I just do this in a regular blender. It's going to cause this area to dry slower so that when you take all of your areas, it will attach. Okay, so let's say I want to make some eyes. Okay, one of the ways I'm going to do that is I'm going to create two spheres. And once I have that sphere, I'm going to smush it down to create a circle. I am going to score the back of it. I'm going to put some slip on it, and I'm going to put it right here.